Okay, it's time to do my fourth Monster Train League run. It looks like Sinus already did this one and had a time of 16 minutes, so it's probably one of the harder ones. I don't have any good volatile gauge targets, and Melting Remnant in general doesn't really like it. So I decided to go with the train stewards to help out the early part. And Burnout Rector has always been way faster, and every time I've tried to do something different, it's not gone well. I think the new Harvest one would work well, but that wasn't an option. Reform just takes way too long to make work. To take the trial here, I want some early scaling, and the train stewards are really making this easy. I do have Purifying Cleanse to keep my Burnout Rector around, and Chimp Blocker to keep him healthy, so really strong start here. I do pick up Reform as a backup plan. I'm not sure if it's going to be the main plan or the backup plan. And I get the best support for the Burnout Rector besides Lady of the Reformed, which is the Paraffin Enforcer. And so I looked for multi-strike on him, and I was actually hoping for burnout on him as well, but that didn't show up. Giant health pool on the Burnout Rector. I'm not worried about spikes. Thinking there. Maybe I misclicked, but now he can be reformed. Yeah, with the Super Train Steward, plenty of damage to kill the boss right away. Up a second reform so I can get two going, and I make the decision here to go with some restores, ideally just using Purifying Cleanse and heals to keep the Burnout Rector around rather than having to reform him to keep his health, keep him healthy. So it's weird to be doing a Melting Remnant speed run. I've never tried it except with the All Clans, and that's with Umbrits. So having a way to keep the Burnout Rector alive with healing is kind of a new experience for me. And then those train stewards are just... I think that's a great early artifact. Because normally with Melting Remnant, train stewards are like the bane of your existence, because they barely do anything and they take up all the space that you want to put your dregs. But here they're just perfectly fine. Don't really have space for any of those guys. I do want Lady of the Reformed if I find one though. So I get capacity, and then I can throw in dregs and the Votivary in the meantime. Get double stack on Purifying Cleanse. The idea is I'm not gonna need to reform my champion if I keep him healed. I'm kind of slow here. I don't really have a game plan, so I have to think about what I'm doing. Because it's not quite enough scaling at this point. Like the train stewards are going to drop off on how much impact they have. Obviously, they're lasting way longer than they normally do, but in the final fight, I don't think their stats now will make the difference. So I put quick on the enforcer with the idea that it'll make my champion stronger each round, but that does mean those giant hit went to the tank and none of the damage the enforcer did anything. It was fine because they never made it to the pyre. So now I'm using that capacity fully with heals. Heal reduction. Immediately decide that I don't want to have that space taken up. So I've already cost reduced a heal and I don't have that many of them. Leaving that space open from the... If I had put the guy that reduced heal costs, I would not have that dreg available to kind of do cleanup detail, and I wouldn't have space for the Votavary to absorb hits. So I think just dealing with what I have now is a better solution overall. Yeah, another reason I don't like the idea of reforming my champion is I would lose all the stacks of rage. At this point, I'm confident enough in my healing abilities that I don't need the Votavary. And that card draw is nice and all, but it does get taken up by the Votavary. Champion did not get the burnout in time. He did lose some rage and regen, unfortunately. Should be fine now, though. Quite enough to kill the boss, but I do have 2 reforms in the deck, and guaranteed to get it in the next 2 turns. Do take card draw though, so I'm not worried about that in the future. And so that my guy will stay alive a little longer. I decided to save that train steward for the final fight. Something I normally never do, but I don't feel like I need it for this next fight. Run's going pretty slowly, just I'm having to do a lot of thinking. Should have played the Crushing Demise first, but it doesn't matter. That mob doesn't matter if I kill the boss. We'll see. I can kill the boss, but I'm killing him anyway. Just out of principle. None of those cards help. That one might. Now that guy's really pretty darn good. Probably should have taken Vapor Funnel there in retrospect. Turns out there's plenty of damage. Defense is less good. I took a risk there and decided to Crushing Demise. This gives him burnout, which means he'll get rage, but he will immediately go away. Now I can do it again, and hopefully one more time before the boss. I also have these refined cleanses, so I don't need to reform again. Not quite enough for the boss. And this, I think, kind of slowed me down a little too much. I should have gone more heavily into healing instead of trying to mess around with reforming. I get a time of 13 minutes 53 seconds, or about 14 minutes after all the time. And I think this is the first one where I am a little behind. I think I'll link my competitors' videos, and Never Nathaniel was eventually able to get a way better time by going with a different tank.